Ready?
All right.
Hold on. We got to do this. Because we're going to the way forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
All right. Hi, we're not actually here tonight. We've eaten too much pie, and Oldham here's had too much eggnog. So we're going to give you a best of show tonight. It's some of the best stuff we've done over this year, and we enjoy it anyway. If you don't, we're going to watch it ourselves.
How far in the future are we right now?
Next
The
week.
year 2000.
Hi there, I'm Tom McKay, and welcome to 3D Politics, where we've got all three Davids, the Davids that matter. Right here, David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. Let's get started with our pilot episode to introduce the Davids to start off with. David Van, what do you do, and how do we get a hold of you?
I'm David Van with Sooner Politics. I'm the publisher. It's a citizen journalism project with about 80 bloggers or so, and I have a real day job, though.
Well, don't ever admit it. Stick with the Sooner Politics.
All right.
I'm David Oldham, and I am the founder of Constitutional Grounds, where we are calling for a return to constitutional governance. We are working on education, lobbying, model legislation, and even going to hopefully engage in some court actions to try to restore some of our rights. You can find us on Facebook at Constitutional Grounds or constitutionalgrounds.com.
Excellent.
My name is David D'Ambroso, and I'm a professional, highly paid rich person. You can find me by Googling my name on the internet.
By Googling your name on the internet, so you're on the internet?
I am all over the internet.
Amazing. That's amazing.
I have destroyed the internet.
Didn't realize that just anybody could get on there. Well, I'm
And
Tom
in his
McKay.
spare time, he impersonates bumblebees.
I have a license.
That's not just now. Yeah. Okay. Just out of the rig there.
You got to control the honeybees.
Well, I'm supposed to tame all three of these Davids in the amazing 3D Politics where we go undercover and over the top. Oh, no, I like me. I'm seeing you. I can see you just fine over here.
He's in love with himself.
But I'm glad you could join us also. Either way. I'm glad you could join us around the kitchen table, which David tells us is the way that all politics happens, is at the kitchen table. And I just, for a real quick outro, what is the difference, boys, between socialism and capitalism in a very short sentence, David Van?
Who gets the benefits of your hard work?
David Oldham.
Tyranny, liberty.
What our betters tell us.
What our betters tell us. Please, what our betters tell us.
I need to elaborate on
Yeah,
this.
I'm just going to, for her sake,
Listen,
I'm just going to ask.
It's good depending on how it's framed, or it's bad depending on how it's framed. So
Leveling the playing field would be leveled according to what I say, as opposed to
Well,
what you say.
originally, just for a fun little trivia, the capitalism was a denigration, a term of denigration. It was derogatory. It was not what we call it today. It actually meant crony capitalism. Mm-hmm. And so when it was first used, so capitalism was crony capitalism. We've turned it into a good thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important to know the context, the definitions of words, and who's using what, how, in order to be able to answer any of these questions.
He's right. If you don't believe it, just ask him.
A context, syntax.
I had to learn that. I didn't come up with that.
It was much more of a pejorative, even with today's understanding of the word and connotation, because capital was always harder to get than it was currently.
And
so
capitalism is harder to explain than socialism, which is why we're coming back right after this. Back with all three Davids. I'm Tom McKay on 3D Politics. I've got David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso here. All three Davids that matter here in Oklahoma. We're going to wind up our last segment here with a little discussion about Elizabeth Warren, who was talking about breaking up Amazon, Google, and Facebook. She refuses to be identified as a socialist, continues to call for redistribution of wealth, and yet claims to be a capitalist. Recently, she said that there are these kill zones where capitalists won't fund businesses in that area because Amazon, Google, and Facebook will just simply eat those businesses up. What I found is she leaves out of her equation the fact that consumers are getting what they want from Google, Amazon, and Facebook, and she's suggesting the government take it over, which government took milk over some time ago, and a gallon of milk costs twice as much as a gallon of gas, and milk literally falls from the udder of a cow. So what do you think about these kill zones, Davids?
Well, I think that Elizabeth Warren is 1024th capitalist. And I'm not sure if her Indian side allows her to believe in private property or not. I think you'd have to ask her about that.
The tribe, you have to ask the tribe.
I don't know. She's the expert. I think she's the leader of the tribe. Last time I checked. I'm not sure. And I only checked with her in her office, but that's what I heard.
You do these punchlines.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I was just in Facebook jail a little while ago, and wow. I don't know what I could have said. Well, I was talking about a topic they did not want me to bring.
That's cyber cred.
But the thing is, I recognize that they have an individual right. Mark Zuckerberg can censor my speech if he so chooses.
Right.
The thing that I'm hoping that people out in the public will do is start boycotting Facebook and find some of these other places to go. I know a lot of people are going over to MeWe and find some of these other platforms where we can do the same things. Hey, President Trump uses Twitter. So if we can get out of there, they need to make a profit. If they can't make a profit, then they will fall of their own weight. And so we can change that. We don't need Elizabeth Warren in all her supposed best
well-intentioned
best
efforts.
intentions.
Yeah.
The point is that government cannot dictate to private citizens what they do with their business and with their product. Mm-hmm. And if we don't like Facebook, we can get off of Facebook. And we're looking at they're talking openly about banning vaccine discussions on Facebook if it's anti-vax, because
there is no discussion, David.
Exactly.
It's settled science.
Vaccines is going to be something we'll open up. But we'll have to wait on that.
So they're already doing open censorship. I mentioned something about abortion that got me in jail. The whole point is that they can do it. We have the power to shut them down if we wanted to, and we don't need government to do it.
Right.
Man.
Here's the thing. It's early March. In my childhood upbringing in central Minnesota, this time of year the snowbanks are piled high. You couldn't play in the playground because, it was past your hips, the snow. So you had to play in the parking lot. And the funnest game was King of the Hill because, man, those bulldozers pile that high.
They do, yeah.
And what is King of the Hill? King of the Hill is when somebody actually achieves the top. Everybody gangs up to knock him down, and then it's a free-for-all again. What it is what's going on with Elizabeth Warren and all the rest of them, Kamala and all of them, it's the politics of jealousy. Somebody else is succeeding, and you're feeding to the losers.
That's right.
That be jealous, let's gang up, and let's pull him down.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Which one of you three wants to compete with Amazon, Google, and Facebook? Because Elizabeth Warren thinks that there's people out there that are trying to compete with Google, Facebook, and Amazon. So it's not me, and I bet none of you guys are. So who does Elizabeth Warren know?
No. Amazon has thousands, here in Oklahoma. There are thousands of people selling on the Amazon platform.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all kinds of people marketing when they feel like they have the best product. When you are the most competitive, that's where you go because that's where the volume is. Mm-hmm. When you're shopping and you go to Amazon, you are getting some of the best prices, not in all fields. Don't buy the groceries there, okay? They're overpriced. But a number of things, you're going to get the best prices by going to Amazon because competition, supply and demand, capitalism.
But Amazon, being as successful as it has spawned other competition. They have affected eBay and what happens on eBay. Walmart is in direct competition with Amazon. And a lot of the other online sellers. But the thing is that if you break up Amazon and you start dictatorially ruling over Amazon, you are affecting thousands, tens of thousands of sellers and buyers across the nation, millions of buyers across the nation, tens of thousands of sellers across the nation, and you're affecting every single one of their livelihoods and ability to purchase at a lower cost. And the only thing that can happen by this central planning is costs go up. Like you pointed out with milk, when FDR put price restrictions on milk, the dairy producers could not sell the milk for what it cost them to raise the cattle that produced the milk. And so they had a big protest where they went to Washington, D.C. and dumped milk down the sewers because it was actually cheaper than selling it.
Socialism. One more comment. We're going to wrap this one up.
Well, I mean, it's just like a lot of solutions within the Democratic Party. I mean, they are solutions in search of a problem, and the free market works kind of okay. And I don't know that it's ever been improved upon by Kamala Harris or Chief Warren, Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, capitalism is what ties the fruits of your labor to you personally. And the socialists came along and stole that whole concept and said, look, we know better what to do with your fruits than you do. How about if we run it? We're going to take another break until next segment. This is 3D Politics. I'm Tom McKay. I got David Van, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso. Tune in again next week for all the exciting action. Hi folks, we're back with 3D Politics. We're going to move on now with David D'Ambroso. David, what have you got for us?
Well, has anyone heard about this investigation into Russian collusion?
I've heard about it.
Has anyone heard about it?
Oh, it's terrible.
I was very concerned. I heard that Hillary Clinton got $142 million from Russia.
It's a lot.
In order to give them 20% of our uranium. And so
yes.
I'm very pleased that there's been a 2-year investigation conducted into the Trump family about this matter. So
Because he donated to her at one point. Yeah, so
that's true.
Maybe that's how he colluded.
That is proof of his collusion.
Was it to her for her Senate campaign?
Hillary Clinton.
I don't actually
Bill?
know.
So does that make her a proxy for Russia? I mean, so I guess he probably is maybe guilty of some kind of Russian collusion if he's ever had any dealings with
Hillary, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. My question is, when are we going to exact a punishment on this abuse of our law for a clearly political attempt to take down the president?
My opinion is, and I hope I'm wrong about this, I'm pretty cynical of a person, so I'm very pleased whenever I'm wrong, but I almost feel like the Republicans, at least of yesteryear, I hope this is not the case of this current Congress, but they're either complicit with the actions of the left or they're just too incompetent to oppose them in any way. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if there are massive arrests and investigations after this, I will be very upset. And I'd say it's time to figure something else out.
Okay, whose job is it to take the initiative and start on this? Barr or new AG? I guess it starts with him.
I mean, I guess, you've got this congressional subpoena power. That's a good start. I guess Barr could launch some investigations.
Congressional subpoena power. You mean Congress? You're expecting Pelosi to take charge here?
Well, I mean, it might be nice if some Republicans subpoena some folks.
The people have to rise up to their representatives, make the call, write the letter, put the pressure from the bottom up to where it finally gets
well,
a
I
note.
also think that there's some state charges that should be brought and can be brought because although these were done for federal officers, they were done in the various states, and I think that there are all sorts of charges that could perhaps come from the states.
It seems like some information was illegally obtained. There were no wiretaps, and there were wiretaps, and of course we've got Strzok and Page reporting directly to Obama on this matter. So we've got known trumped-up charges. We've got a questionable dossier, which seems to, now I'm not a Democrat, so I won't make an emphatic statement without knowing it to be so. Seems like McCain had something to do with it and Hillary Clinton paid for the Steele dossier. This seems to be the information we have, so we just don't know, and I think we need to have at least a 700-day investigation into everyone who's ever spoken to Hillary Clinton, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, Comey, McCabe, Mueller, etc. I mean, is that insane? What do we think about that?
Yeah.
700 days.
You know, one of the you said in previous episodes that the politicians are cowards, and if they are cowards, then the only thing that they're going to move on is fear. And so they have to fear the electorate more than they fear whatever choices they're going to make to correct the situation.
We're creating the political will for this action. As soon as you raise the alarm on social media and to your friends and family, you get a little bit upset about it, and then you create some kind of path to action, it'll catch fire.
Yeah, I think Oldham's onto something here. If you got a good state attorney general who says, you know what, some of this took place in our domain, and by God, we're going to step up, I think that could literally shame the Justice Department into acting.
Well, you know, the governors get together on a regular basis.
Yes.
What about the state attorney generals getting together in the different states
They also
that
do.
are... So there's...
Well, they get together, but they don't have constitutional authority as an organization.
No, but they could build their networking and similar states with similar attitudes.
And they
to
do.
push in that
They
direction.
do. Attorney generals of the different states do work together.
right.
Yes.
Well, I'm just curious, what specific action would Hunter take here in the state of Oklahoma?
Well, it would have to be something that took place here or involved our assets.
Well, it could. I don't know what the statutes are, the federal statutes or even ours. But you got to stop and think about all of the criminal activity has affected Oklahomans, and therefore, if our attorney general doesn't step up for our rights that are being disenfranchised, for our tax money that's been gone to the wrong places, and this, that, and the other thing, then there is something wrong with our attorney
Maybe
general.
stand up with-
Now the question is there something that he can do?
An illegal action to remove our our legally elected president.
Yeah. Well, case in point, when the attempt was made to assign Bill Clinton in this relationship with Monica Lewinsky, Linda Tripp was involved. She had recorded some things. Some people who didn't like that decided they were going to make a move, and I believe it was Maryland's Attorney General considered charging Linda Tripp with wiretapping.
Yeah, except they were a one-party state, so that didn't.
I know something on that, but see, the left is not ashamed and not afraid to do these things.
What are the laws on tapping the president of the United States without his knowledge, I wonder?
Yeah,
No different than anybody else.
it shouldn't be.
I
Yeah.
mean, it shouldn't be, but
I wonder what those laws are in the District of Columbia, though. I
Yeah.
wonder if that's single
I
party.
mean, when somebody
I
on the right says, hey, let's do nullification here of federal law, they get called a nut job.
Right.
But California's doing it right now.
That's the problem. We care about process and propriety. The left just doesn't.
well, no. Nullification is process and propriety.
I know.
It's about doing it on the right things. California is doing it unconstitutionally. We need to do
Firearms,
it for
legal
anything that's constitutional.
immigrants.
Yes, and when they go around wanting to confiscate guns, when they go around creating unconstitutional laws, when they go around becoming a the immigrants,
The illegals.
the illegals,
Sanctuary
state. When they become that is
What would happen if we did that for
illegal,
guns?
unconstitutional nullification.
What if Tulsa became a sanctuary city for automatic rifles? How do you think that would go over?
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. The final point on this is what David was talking about in our first segment about you can regulate, you can't prohibit. Remember, that's what Supreme Court's telling us on Roe versus Wade. The Webster case in Missouri, they said, okay, we'll allow that regulation, but it can't be any more restrictive than that, or it becomes prohibition, and therefore you're denying somebody a constitutional right. Let's flip it around. That same thing applies on other issues. If it's a right, you can't prohibit it. You may be able to regulate, depending on what
It only applies to the extent that it's applied. by bureaucrats
Yes.
and politicians
Yeah.
and the executive branch. So that's really the issue. It really is
You know-
under the entire discretion of prosecutors, lawmakers, police.
Yes, and
Completely.
that's where getting the word out so that we can put the pressure on them is so important.
We'll come around with a whole nother episode sometime and talk just about state nullification of federal law at some point. I'm Tommy K with all three Davids. We'll be back with 3D Politics right after this. Hey everybody, my name's Tom McKay and I'm here with 3D Politics and I've got all three Davids here in Oklahoma that matter. I've got David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. What's your headline today, David Van?
The collapse of the Pawhuska hemp truck case.
The collapse of the Pawhuska hemp truck
Rolls right off the
case.
tongue.
All right,
That's right.
we're going to come back around to that. What have you got for us today?
Bill of Rights rejection by the states leads to all of the tyranny that we see here in Oklahoma.
And I'm not going to repeat that. But in
I'll
the form
explain.
of a question.
See, now mine sounded good.
That was, now
I know, I'm
it does.
horrible at
Have you got a title or just quick wit for us today?
Well, I got the Mueller Report Nothing Burger.
Nothing burger, which I'm-
0 calories.
Well, great. I'm Tom McKay. I'm your host today on 3D Politics. We're going to get started. So let's start with David Van, and we'll all get a chance to chime in, take a break, and come back with the other two topics.
All right. Well, the Farm Bill decided that they were going to include industrial hemp back in the waning days of last year. And what do you know? Test case decided to pop up in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, when a trucking company and their escort security vehicle decided to stay on Highway 82, I believe, old US Route 82 from Paducah, Kentucky, and ended up in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. So this was the Paducah to Pawhuska Express. 3 in the morning, they missed the one stoplight in Pawhuska.
which I hear wasn't working.
Yeah, and what do you know?
That's not my fault.
There was a night shift cop that got the short straw and had to work that night, and so he pulled him over. And what do you know? One thing led to another, to another, to another, and we've got a whole semi-trailer load of industrial hemp that's en route going to Colorado. Well, they decided that this was the biggest marijuana bust in Oklahoma history, don't you know? Except that it wasn't. And the latest news on it, Friday, the district attorney decided that the two guys driving the truck, actually in possession of it, he dropped all charges.
Oh, really?
But the security company that was trailing along to make sure that, gets where he was, those guys are facing felony charges up to life imprisonment.
For
Still.
what?
The biggest marijuana bust in Oklahoma history.
And what's interesting is it's the security guys that were let out on bond,
Well,
and not the drivers of the truck.
let me clarify that. They had the means to make bond.
Right.
These two drivers who are immigrants from East Africa
Right.
did not have the means to make bonds, and they sat in there for over a month only to have their charges dropped.
Sitting in where?
The Osage County Jail.
So a really nice spot then.
Well,
That's
lovely.
only fair. That was enough hemp to kill a large city.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway,
It would be enough to
Okay.
hang a large city.
now the pot that
Cecil
you
Road.
can buy in the black market or at dispensaries averages somewhere between 12 and 25% THC. It's potent stuff nowadays.
Okay.
All of this stuff was below 1%. But as long as, according to the district attorney who was on the radio this morning, once it goes over that 0.3%,
Right.
it's marijuana, don't you know?
And so what is industrial hemp used for? If
The
it's not-
CBD oil in it is you sold in all 50 states. You can buy it at your local big box store.
Okay.
Now keep in mind, 4 years ago, just one bottle of it will get you a 5-year prison sentence in Oklahoma. So we've come a ways on this. But industrial hemp's used in garment making. Used to be most of our rope was made out of hemp, hemp rope. And, there's just a whole bunch of things.
Plastics.
Yes.
Before petroleum products, they started making plastic out of petroleum. They made it out of cellulose fiber, and hemp was one of the biggest providers of it because it's fastest growing and the largest producing in volume. So it was used widely for everything from combs and you name.
It seems like, get my tin foil, would you?
One of our other studios decided to crank their volume.
If you have fun, turn it up. So is this one company shipping all this shipment? Is this multiple companies shipping in one truck?
This was a farmer from way up on the northern peak of Kentucky, actually near Covington, near Cincinnati, just across the Ohio River. And they had sold this shipment to a CBD processing plant in just outside of Denver, Colorado. On the bill of lading, they were told specifically there's a couple of backwoods, back-minded states. Stay out of Illinois and stay out of Kansas. So they specifically drove all the way down to the bottom of Kentucky to Paducah, came across southern Missouri, and they were supposed to drive all along Oklahoma. Now they were told, once in Springfield, get on I-44, take it to Tulsa, and then get on the Cimarron Turnpike and eventually go out through the Panhandle and go up. The truckers messed up, didn't go through Tulsa. We would have treated them better than Pawhuska did.
All right, comments before we put this thing down. Anybody?
I just feel safer already.
You do? Each time. Yeah.
I think it's important to point out from a constitutional perspective, except for the traffic stop, there was not one thing done constitutionally, and still remains nothing done constitutionally in this entire event.
What do you mean done constitutionally?
There is prohibition is wholly unconstitutional in any form, matter, shape.
When you say nothing has been done constitutionally, what you mean is that the authorities are acting unconstitutionally.
That's correct.
All right.
Tell that to President Wilson.
Well, and that's the point, is that they are acting as though they are being law enforcement officers when they are actually the agents of lawlessness. And it's time that we start acknowledging this. Because if our Constitution is to mean anything, then we have to begin to exercise our
Well, let's
rights.
clarify this, because our state constitution, I believe, gives us the power to regulate on this.
Well, there's a difference between regulation and prohibition.
But it was regulated, and the law says it cannot exceed 0.3%.
No. That's where the problem is. It is a prohibition of anything above 0.3%. That is not a regulation. A regulation are like the basic rules of the road. You're prohibited from driving on the left because you're allowed to drive on the right. And the purpose of that is so that there is safety.
Okay.
Now, you are not a free person if you are disallowed for making the decision of using marijuana as a medicine or whatever. You are not free, and that is what is guaranteed us by the Bill of Rights.
What they did wasn't good.
So we can sell strychnine and ricin and all of these poisons as long as we
are not harming others. And as long as you are not selling it as something safe when it is not.
Okay, so
You have to
as long as it was clean and we washed our hands, I'm being a little facetious.
I tell you what, this is some exciting foreplay. And we're going to be back with 3D Politics right after this. Hey, I'm Tom McCann, your host with 3D Politics, all three Davids and Davids Matter. We're going to get back with David Oldham here and talk about how to teach your kids about authority figures like cops.
Well, this started, and it's a question. I'm not saying one thing or another, but it was raised by a defense attorney here in Oklahoma who posted online that that you need to teach your children starting from the earliest age to distrust the police because of the things that the police do. Not always for a person's best interest. They want to get you. They might be searching for reasons to take kids from their parents, things like that. And as a defense attorney, he sees all sorts of things come across his desk. And
he sees the job of the police to infringe upon your rights.
well, yes, because
Okay.
he's defending people from that.
Okay.
And this was started because there was a photo taken by the Tulsa Police Department showing cops interacting with a bunch of kids, and the kids all sitting on their laps and
Gotcha.
hamming it up and so forth. And then several parents wrote back, and they disagreed with him quite vehemently, and so it led to the question: how hyperbolic is he? Because he was saying that all cops are bad. You can't trust any of the cops. And
As a
so
defense attorney, he has some selection bias, right? He's going to see these abuses at a much higher rate than anyone else in the general
well,
population.
that's the
It's
question:
probably-
how hyperbolic is he based from
who's
that?
this fellow?
It is Jay Ramey.
Jay Ramey.
Jay Ramey, and he's
Ethnically,
white.
White. See, he might be the first legislator from North Tulsa who wasn't black. Because up there, they all believe exactly what he's saying.
Well, he's not. He's not.
Is he Irish?
He's not from North Tulsa. In
I
fact,
don't-
I don't
okay, I'm
even know
saying-
if he's in Tulsa anymore.
What
I
I'm
don't
saying
remember where
is
he's-
what he's teaching is solidly the convictions of the community of many of my friends in North Tulsa.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
but the question is, and does it matter race? Because from where I come from California, and you have to teach your children to stick on your sides, to stay in the house. If strangers come up, they need to run in and lock the doors because they might be CPS. And CPS is
People's
never
Republic.
Child Protection
Child
Service.
Protection Services, here in Oklahoma known as DHS. They are not ever in there for your good.
Well, they're going to re-educate your children about your anti-science bias.
There you go. That's one of the
You
things.
love
I'll be doing.
polio. Just admit it, David.
Hey.
Oh my God, again. He's on that polio bias again.
I dig.
And so
go ahead.
So that leads the question: what do you teach your kids? Because aren't the police supposed to be there for our good? And why do so many people in North Tulsa or other areas? And this guy is definitely not. He's an attorney. He does not live in the poor part of town.
Right.
What leads them to have such views? And there's got to be a grain of truth in that. And isn't that something that we as the public need to start thinking about?
If you live in a high crime area like North Tulsa, the police are probably there to help you statistically if you're encountering the police. If you're in a low crime area, you're probably going to run into more of these nuisance calls, or these calls potentially where police are abusing their authority, because you have a safe community, and really the police don't have as much of a job to do. You have high per capita gun ownership, so you have a low crime rate, and you have a high socioeconomic factor, so there aren't many of these crimes that require your day-to-day beat copping. But in an area that's predominantly minority, black especially, your violent crime rates are extremely high, in which case the police are like bleach in a public pool, and they really are protecting you. Probably don't need that much bleach in your backyard pool, though, you know.
My eyes.
Well,
My eyes.
Well, but the question is, how much of that is true? I mean, we saw from the live PD tape where the cop came up and was hassling a guy just because he had a blue shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only reason.
Was he trying to mock the cop? Was he trying to imitate him?
No, he was...
Well, there was some bad police records that the police deferred to, and they said he's known to be part of a gang. What was happening many, many years ago when this man, a dad, was a young boy, the police had this deal where free bicycles, sign up for this and this, and they assigned that at that time that he was a gang member. And they never questioned their own records. And this guy's saying, no, I'm not. What made it really bad is this is a man struggling to recover from a serious bipolar disorder condition, and they're triggering him. They're literally causing harm to his health by that live PD. And I know his attorney and talked to her, and so this is a problem.
Well, it was clear they violated his rights just because of the color of his shirt. They assumed. The cop at the time admitted he did not know who the guy was.
Yeah.
He later on looked him up and found the gang affiliation thing, and then used that to justify himself.
And he defamed him on national television.
Yes, and that was the final straw that Bynum then pulled Live PD from Tulsa.
Had to.
At least for a while.
Sounds like probable cause to me.
Yeah.
I support our heroes in blue.
I've got a good friend who's a cop, Stephen Mills. Well, actually, now he's the city manager. He was at CPAC, I think it was a year ago, and he, to talk about asset forfeiture. Now, because he's a victim of that. He's a veteran, but he mentioned to me, because he and I started a blog, actually it's on Facebook, it's called Peace Officers in Liberty. The term peace officer, we don't hear much anymore. Because, and it's important that we go back to that, to remind them that they are here to preserve the peace, not to incite further hostilities. Anybody in law enforcement, whether it's a cop on the beat or the prosecutor, this is why I think we should have term limits for district attorneys, because you get a tainted view of society by only being subjected and dealing with the worst of the worst.
Well,
it's us versus them. It's the same thing that you see in these minority communities that are distrustful of police. The arrest rates are much higher because the crime rates are higher. Mm-hmm. So where you have a higher arrest rate, you're going to have a higher instance of abuse. Mm-hmm. You're running that number up. That's what they see.
Yeah.
That's disproportionately their interaction with law enforcement. The same thing applies to the other end. If you're a DA, right, you're predominantly prosecuting people that are guilty. And that is your view of the public. When you have someone that's brought in as a prosecutor, as a DA, you're dealing with people that you're foot soldiers, the people that work for the same employer that you work for. They're paid by the same entity. The prosecutor, the DA, and the cops are paid by. It's the same entity. You're on the same team, and you're seeing that, wow, you're associating the people that are simply accused, that are simply charged as being guilty. And I don't care who you are, you're going to have that kind of confirmation bias, that kind of selection bias.
But there are crimes that are only punished in the poor part of town. I know of a good family that their kids one morning, a Saturday morning, got up early and snuck out of the house and went down to the park a block and a half away. Mm-hmm. Somebody found those kids there and called the police. The parents were arrested and charged with child endangerment and faced serious charges because that's a dangerous part of town and their kids are in danger. Now, we're filming here within an eye shot of Hunter Park.
Right.
If that same kid happened to walk from this house over to Hunter Park, would a parent in this part of town be prosecuted? No, because it's safe here. Okay. So what we have is laws that only apply to the poor part of town. And that's a problem.
Right. To get out of this, a little bit of, I think one of the problems here, before we break real quickly, is scale and proportion. We cannot say to the children, always trust all cops, always. Same way we can't, in race relations, say, always distrust anybody that's not the same color as you.
Yep.
So we cannot make these laws and base these proportional laws on these anecdotal experiences. So we have to go with principles instead of ideals. You have to teach your children coarse, medium, and fine to start. In the beginning, when you're puppets on Sesame Street, the good guy wears the white hat. You start somewhere. And the cop is the good guy to start. Then later you teach them the nuance that, you know what, just because they wear the uniform doesn't mean they're a real good guy. We're going to take a break as we sharpen all these things in freedom and politics on 3D Politics with all 3 days that matter.
Take it from them.
Hey, if you've just joined us, you're watching 3D Politics. I'm Tom McKay, your host. I've got David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso, all things political in the state of Oklahoma and beyond. We're discussing everything from car plate ownership to Elizabeth Warren, and we're going to move also into this Veritas story.
Okay.
Project Veritas. You want to move on to this Elizabeth Warren? Now, last week I was talking about the 2009 New York Times story about $467 million over the course of a homosexual couple's lifetime is what it costs them if they don't get the marriage benefit.
467,000. The 467 million figure
Oh, yeah.
actually
He
comes
does the
from
numbers.
CARE. Actually comes from the LGBTQ
That's right. That's right.
123 Alliance.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. The Elizabeth Warren is talking about $57 million in tax refunds for married LGBT couples. Now, the story I was talking about last week was 467,000 per married LGBT couple. So
And
what
this
is
is money they have to pay to the Pope, right, for their sin?
I think George Bush is in on it too, but the Jews. But anyway, the 57 million. What's 57 million divided by 467?
I don't know.
You got to figure
Well,
there.
the problem is that's over
25 cents, I think.
I mean, the 467,000 is on how many years?
A lifetime.
A lifetime. Well, the problem is the numbers don't show that very many of them stay together for a lifetime. They are
David.
together for a very short time and then
So
split.
57.
More
Yeah,
than,
your
more
average
than the
number,
average.
yeah.
More than the average.
Yeah, homosexuals on average are more they're more
Promiscuous.
polyamorous, more polygamous than have more partners than straight couples on average. It's just a fact.
467.
Those are just the numbers.
I think I saw one study indicated the average homosexual relationship lasts about 2 years relative to your average heterosexual relationship lasting.
I do know some that have been together for a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But they're the abnormality, not the normal.
While I can't run the numbers to figure it out exactly how much it's going to benefit LGBT couples, this is exactly what I was talking about last week. This is a push to try to legitimize gay marriage, same-sex marriage, as though it's the same as opposite-sex marriage for $57 million.
What's wrong with two people that just love each other, Tom?
Well,
Why is your heart so full of hate?
What
I
this
can't
tells
help
me,
it.
what this tells me, when this becomes something real, our government's too big. It ought not matter to our government whether you're sharing your house with somebody the same sex or different sex.
The Refund Equality Act is what it's called, and it's going to remove the limits that the federal tax has. The federal tax relief, you can go back and amend for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay? They're going to change that so that they can go back. Statement regarding the reintroduction of the Refund Equality Act. Elizabeth Warren said, the federal government forced legally married same-sex couples in Massachusetts to file as individuals and pay more in taxes for almost a decade. It's only right that we change this tax code to make it fairer for all. What is fair is if homosexual couples pay more in taxes, because heterosexuals provide new average taxpayers. My wife and I have created 5 new average taxpayers, which means we've added to the tax revenue.
Well, no,
These
no,
people
no,
don't
no,
know.
No. I'm going to dispute that.
Please.
Number one, they've got Amtrak trains running all over Massachusetts, which we pay for, and we don't get squat here in Oklahoma. So, Ann Warren, I'm sorry, but you can ball somewhere else. Your state gets more federal funding than our state does.
Yeah. I
Look
mean,
at the big dig. I mean, there's
Yeah,
billions
I know.
spent there.
there's also a companion legislation, Pride Act of 2019 by Judy Chu, Democrat from California.
Right.
And it prevents, alter the federal tax code that currently prevents married couples from amending their tax returns beyond previous 3 years. So they're going to want to go back, I think it opens it up indefinitely for however long they've been married.
I just think what we've got to do is, take Massachusetts, who took the deal to get Medicaid expansion money from the federal government to their state. Oklahoma didn't do that. Federal government ought to just cut each one of us a check for what they would have given to Oklahoma. I mean, this is endless.
Absolutely endless.
What's ridiculous is they're pushing people out of the category of individual into the group association, even if it's just with one person to start with. They don't want you filing individually. They want you filing as a partner, and they force you to file individually in the penalty.
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to file separately for whatever arrangement my family has, I can't get the cost sharing on the national, healthcare exchange.
Well, if
I have to file jointly. Is that fair? Ann Warren seems to be focusing or Elizabeth Warren. It seems to be focusing on one little deal where she can say, hey, Massachusetts didn't get a good deal here. You know what? We don't get the federal highway funds here that we send to Washington either.
Well, stop and think about it. It's not equal protection under the laws. It's not equal taxation, because some get deals, others don't. I'm single, so I don't get a break. Others do.
Yeah.
This is a financial incentive to call yourself gay. There's been 3 movies made about it.
And that just tells you our government is too big.
Yeah.
Because this shouldn't be happening. Most of what the federal government's doing should be happening at the states anyway.
Well, I just want to add, you can call her Ann Warren because she's already race fluid, so she might as well be name fluid.
That's right. The real thing is, and going to your point about the kids and how much should be paid by one or another. Really, it comes down to the amount of service that you use, because in reality, they are meant to be protecting our rights. That's the
Who?
government.
Government is meant to protect our rights.
Secure our rights. That is the point of forming government, so that we can come together and we are not in some anarchistic, water world kind of situation where we have to just protect ourselves at all costs all the time. So that is the purpose of government. Beyond that is actually unlawful. Okay? And you can have some constitutionally, you can have some roads and mail service and things like that. But you can't get into all of the social programs and everything like that, because those are all unlawful programs. There's no constitutional.
Where are they prohibited by the Constitution?
The 10th Amendment.
But these football stadiums cost a lot of money. We can't do it without the government. The gathering place costs a lot of money.
Checkmate, Oldham. Checkmate. You're done.
Is this not an incentive to file as gay? I mean, this is literally a $57 package, $57 million package to file as gay.
Well, I identify as a lesbian, so it's multiple hate crimes whenever a Democrat disagrees with me. They're
My
literally
car
a racist
identifies
thing.
as a horse. I don't need a license plate.
Yep,
Don't you have a Mustang?
I do.
Bingo!
It's literally a horse.
Giddy up, Sonny.
That's right.
Hell hath no fury like that of a pony scorned.
I
You
lose
want
the
to try to
back
get
end.
in?
I
You
lose
want to
the
try
back
to get
end of
into
my
the
carbon
Fort
credits in
Sill
the methane.
concentration camps?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So, Fort Sill.
Good choice of language, because they think that people are trying to get into concentration camps.
break it
Isn't
in.
that the conceit of the whole thing?
Now, this started, it was about 3 or 4 years ago when I remember Congressman Jim
1939.
Jim Bridenstine was trying to get on down there to find out, hey, what's going on with all these minors that just flooded into the country without any, they were illegal aliens regardless of their age. And Obama was doing this, and he was separating kids out from adults and
You
stuff
wouldn't
like
do that.
But anyway, so now,
And this was at Fort Sill.
Fort Sill.
We have to make
Right
that.
up.
Which,
That's-
yeah.
bring that
So
home.
now Fort Sill, a historic part of our nation's military. It's an army base there. Goes all the way back to when the cavalry ran it, and Geronimo once spent time there. He was trumped up on a bunch of garbage charges to begin with, but because it was a territory, yes, it was a federal facility. He was tried in federal court, territorial court, and held there. And then evidently, now I find out, Japanese internment camp during World War II, one of the locations.
That's my
was
next
there.
meme, by the way. Get ready
Yeah,
for that one.
and stuff. But anyway, what we've got going on is a crisis of way too many just flooding over our borders, and yet our U.S. House of Representatives will not raise a finger to provide additional relief, leaving the administration to have to be as creative as they can to find places to
Why
put
would they?
this.
They benefit from the crisis.
Well,
Why would they?
without the money to
Democratic majority.
without the
does
money
benefit.
to properly staff, to have enough people running this, or to process things out so that people are determined, yes, either you do get asylum here or you don't, and bye-bye. We are languishing because we don't have the funds for a crisis, and yet who's bad-mouthing about it? Let me tell you, these the Democrats in our federal government who are whining about what Trump's are doing are the same one that were applauding Obama for doing the same thing.
For separating children from their parents at the
And-
border?
And I'm telling you, this is absolutely posturing.
It's so funny too because a lot of the images going around in the media of evil orange man bad Trump, separating children from their parents at the border, they were actually taken during the Obama administration. It's
Right,
absolutely hysterical. You can right click
Yeah.
the file and go to the info. It's they're from 2014.
Yeah.
The images.
I'm telling you, in the way this administration is operating in this area is almost identical to what Trump is doing. It's actually a little bit better in some ways, but, and I remember when G.W. Bush was leaving office, he did an interview. He said, most of the things that happen in the administrative part of our government here are pretty much set, and the people that come after me are going to do essentially what I did. Doesn't matter whether it's a D or an R. And I'm finding that to be very true on some of these federal responsibilities, like protecting our borders. So Trump's not doing much different than Obama, and yet,
Other than seeking to address the issue and creatively using tariffs to mobilize the Mexican National Guard to their southern border. I mean,
Yeah.
he is doing a lot there, and of course, what I like to say, what I wanted to say earlier too, is it's hilarious that Trump is being condemned by Democrats that have used even stronger language in condemning illegal immigration. I mean, you listen to, the Clintons in the early 90s, or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. I mean, they sound like Donald Trump times 2 on this issue. And they've all suggested building a wall, and they've all suggested cracking down. But they realize now that they're murdering their natural voting base demographic at such a high rate that they have to import new voters.
Yeah, if you look at how our federal government changed around the time we got the 16th and 17th Amendment, that was right after a big flood of new immigrants, including my great-grandfather and grandmother coming in Ellis Island.
No better argument against
When
immigration.
we had a whole bunch of immigrants who didn't know the history, the culture, the heritage, to the degree that a child growing up here would know about why we formed the kind of government we did, the federal and the state. To them, that's why you saw all of a sudden, hey, it shouldn't be up to legislatures to pick the 2 senators. We'll just make it a popular vote. Or, it sure would be nice if we had a federal income tax, but as long as it's only millionaires who are going to pay it. That's how it was sold on them. And so I am concerned about a flood of immigration if they aren't properly educated in why we do things the way we do.
All
Because
the Pew
otherwise-
research numbers indicate that it doesn't matter. Foreign-born immigrants south of the border
Yeah.
favor far-left policies at a rate of 80%.
Yeah, but if I'm from
So do their
Colombia
citizens.
coming here, what am I going to want to see? Probably the
Colombian
things,
governance,
Or at
according
least-
to how people actually
at least the best parts of Colombian government. And the same would be true whether it was Germany or Vietnam or wherever. I'm going to want to keep the good and get rid of the bad. And most nations don't have the heritage that we have here that is unique. for the type of government we have. And that's my concern about the immigration. Now, we'll give Trump this. He's looking long-term, seeing a barrier wall is necessary. Yes, the Democrats have said that, but did they mean it? The Republicans Trump is the only one that seems
kind
to
of like
mean
moving the embassy
Bingo.
to Jerusalem.
Bingo.
Everybody said it, but there's only one guy that did it.
Yes.
You know, so
I'm sorry, you were saying.
No. The real thing is, if they were serious about it, they would change the reasons that people are coming here. They're coming here for free money, free handouts. They're coming here because, hey, we just let them through. All I have to do is come and say, I'm a refugee.
Yeah.
And they're in. So if that's the case, and they don't, the only wall is being built to keep people from getting to that point, so that they can't say, "Hey, I'm a political
I will tell you this, though. I would rather, and this is going to sound bigoted as can be here, okay, and stereotypical. I would rather take 1,000 Latin American families than 1,000 Eastern European families, because I know the family values that I've seen from the people that I've interacted with here, because we do have a large Latin American contingent here. And some of the most family values oriented people, and yeah, I'm being bigoted, I'm being absolutely stereotypical.
well, you know, the biggest family there is the socialist family.
But I'm saying this. I'm saying this because there's a lot of people within my own political sphere who look down their noses on Latin Americans. And I'm telling you, they are our allies in many ways when it comes to the culture, when it comes to the values of family, the values of self-reliance.
Like in Venezuela or Guatemala or Mexico.
I'm telling you, compared to what you see in Democrat socialism, which is much of Europe now, I would rather keep that in Europe.
Well, you see who they've replaced their socialist regime with in Venezuela. They're attempting to. Another socialist. They're like, wow, socialism didn't work. Let's try socialism.
Okay. Venezuela has a heritage going back over the last 100 years that's been fantastic. It's other than, this last 20 years, it has been a great country.
Well, what about Mexico or Honduras?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Colombia.
Yeah. Colombia, right now, Colombia, you don't hear much because Colombia has cleaned up immensely. Immensely. But
that's because they finally got a ruler who wasn't tyrannical.
Yeah. I mean, if you went to Argentina,
and now how much does cocaine cost, David?
If you went to Argentina, you would find it to be so similar to American culture, except they speak Spanish.
Argentina and Chile.
That's because that's
Argentina and Chile. Dear God.
Yeah, they all speak Spanish.
I'm too tired for this.
So the culture doesn't bother me. I enjoy learning new cultures.
It's about values, about political values, because that's what we're talking about. It's going to be the direction the country goes. I agree. I don't mind immigrants from nations that value liberty, like Chile, like Argentina. And it doesn't matter their ethnic background or their cultural background. What I do look at is data. And we have a lot of data that it doesn't suggest, it literally states it is reflective of the self-reported views of many of these immigrants. And I'm telling you, 80% of them support far leftism. Not just Democrats. They do vote for Democrats, but they vote for the Ocasio-Cortez.
Well, can we segue from that into...
Well, not yet, because I want to add, the reason that works like that is from simple psychology. There's a famous experiment. They put a fish in a 3-foot tank, and they put a barrier 1 foot in. They make the fish live in the 1 foot end of the tank.
And then the fish turns gay. I know, I saw that.
Yeah, but they get a tax
Frogs.
They get a tax break. But they pull the barrier out, and the fish, even though the barrier is gone, won't swim past where it's learned to stay. And this is the same problem we have with
Yes.
fish. Basically, they've learned that I eat gruel and I get it from them. And as long as that's what it is, they'll
And
just
there's
do that
another
again.
psychological...
So you're talking about the slave mentality.
Yeah, basically.
There's another effect. It's called mere exposure. People like something simply because you like it more the more times you're exposed to it. No matter what it is.
Yes.
No matter how awful it is or mundane it is, you like it more. And for whatever reason, a combination of these factors, or maybe some other confounding factor, but people tend to vote for what they've already experienced. When people come from, and I've said it a million times, I'll say it a million more, they come from California, they come from the People's Republic of Washington, Oregon, and New York, and they move to Texas that has very liberty-oriented constitutional laws.
Yeah.
They vote for the leftism that has destroyed their communities, and that's what Austin, Texas, is a bastion of it. People do not connect those two things. So that's my pushback on your statement. But I do agree with some good analysis here.
Okay.
Yeah, and what did you want to say?
There you go.
Anything else, gentlemen, before we break for a great 2 weeks? We're going to have all that best of. We're going to try to work out some of our exciting tech for an exciting show.
Merry
next year.
Christmas, Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year.
Enjoy the celebration that Christ came to live among us.
Amen.
Yes.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No. In fact, you know what? They say Jesus born in the manger is probably any month except December. But I don't want to get D'Ambroso and Oldham started.
He was born
way
6
back.
months after John the Baptist, which
Yeah.
would have been sometime in the fall.
Yeah.
Because we know when John the Baptist was born, I think, in the text. You know,
Yeah.
like, but it doesn't matter. I mean, come on, look. Everybody knows at Christmas they've taken some liberties, and you know, since you're 3 years old, Jesus wasn't born today. But this is when we choose to celebrate his birthday because we know
Santa's real.
You know what?
No,
He would want his birthday
But
celebrated.
it's important because this is the month of all months you can build a snowman, maybe, and that's why.
Snowman,
There's
maybe.
nothing more
It has
essential
nothing to do with Saturnalia or my people dominating most of Europe or the religion at that
Yeah.
time, and then saying, "Hey,
Absolutely
how about this pagan
nothing.
holiday?"
Yeah.
And we'll say Jesus was born then.
Wait,
Yeah.
who's been
But
in the
Merry
Wayback
Christmas.
Machine lately?
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
And actually, Oldham here, he's more likely to celebrate Festivus, where the airing of grievances. That's what he does every Monday night here. is
You
airing
get some good things, some bad things from the Romans. You get the Republic, and then you get Christmas. Like, whatever.
But anyway, no, our best to you all, and thank you for being a part of this first year with us.